Hello everyone, today we discuss the newly article, published in Arab News and written by Dr. Turki Faisal Al-Rasheed, explores a pivotal moment in modern diplomacy. It highlights how Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's recent visit to Washington marks the beginning of a new era of Saudi-US cooperation in artificial intelligence, a partnership that blends strategic vision, technological ambition, and shared global responsibility. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are jumping right into a diplomatic maneuver that, well, it really marks a decisive pivot for the global energy landscape and, frankly, the geopolitical balance of power.
We're talking about the November 2025 visit of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the White House.
Right, during President Trump's second term.
And this was the Crown Prince's first White House visit in, 7 years. So it's a powerful signal.
A huge signal.
The stack of sources you've given us makes it abundantly clear. The Saudi-U.S. alliance is no longer just about the traditional exchange of oil for arms.
Has moved on.
The new focus is technological interdependence. We're talking about a foundation of shared intellectual property, prioritizing regional stability built on, a shared digital infrastructure.
So our mission today is a deep dive into the strategic artificial intelligence partnership that was formally announced. We need to grasp the staggering financial commitments.
They're beyond anything we've really seen before.
Exactly. And we need to analyze how this new tech synergy is being framed by both Riyadh and Washington as a peace multiplier in a region that is desperately trying to move past conflict.
It's a fascinating attempt to move beyond those old transactional alliances toward what one source calls, and I'm quoting here, algorithming a harmonious future.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We have to start with the psychology behind it all.
Yeah.
What the source calls the alignment of dreamers and numbers.
Right.
The Arab News editor-in-chief, Faisal Abbas, he reported on a really candid exchange in the Oval Office that kind of set the philosophical tone for this whole new chapter.
It was a very telling moment. Trump, according to the source, drew a direct parallel between his own ambition to make America great again and the Crown Prince's focus on his country's transformation.
A shared work ethic, basically.
Yes. He noted that shared intense work ethic, saying, the Crown Prince thinks about his country and I think about mine.
Yeah, that suggests a relationship built less on, historical obligation and more on a mutual respect for sheer national ambition.
And here's where it gets really interesting, the way Trump framed their common ground. It was about tenacity.
The source quotes him saying, Trump is stubborn in his dream for America, and Mohammed bin Salman is stubborn in his dream for Saudi Arabia.
And this is the crucial insight the source provided because it links that abstract ambition to concrete results. It adds that the future is made by dreamers, especially when they possess the ability to bolster their dreams with numbers.
And those numbers, as you mentioned, are truly massive. The core agreement, the Strategic Artificial Intelligence Partnership.
Signed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan.
And it's backed by a monumental Saudi pledge.
The big number is $1 trillion.
Wait, 1 trillion with a T.
$1 trillion. And this isn't just, money changing hands. It's a pledge earmarked specifically for investment in key U.S. sectors.
That figure alone demands a pause. You have to put that into perspective. It's a commitment that drastically reorients the entire relationship.
For decades, it was built on oil exports and treasury purchases.
And now?
Now it's targeted, strategic integration. The funds are channeled into 3 areas that are, they're national security priorities for the U.S., rare earth minerals, nuclear energy, and, critically, semiconductors.
So a clear pivot from traditional energy security.
A very clear pivot. It's all about tech interdependence now. It aligns perfectly with Saudi Arabia's big economic plan, Vision 2030, and America's own focus on maintaining its competitive edge in AI.
But doesn't focusing so heavily on semiconductors, on cloud infrastructure, doesn't that create a new dependency risk? The sources celebrate moving away from oil, but are they just swapping it for chip reliance?
That's a great question, and they did address that indirectly. The argument presented is that this new dependency is mutual and cooperative rather than exploitative.
How so?
The sheer scale of the investment, that $1 trillion, makes the cooperation too big to fail. It ties the kingdom's economic future directly to the success of America's innovative edge. So it becomes a shared destiny, not just a transaction.
Which brings us squarely to building this global AI catalyst. This alliance leverages very distinct strengths. You have Saudi Arabia bringing what the source calls Eastern ingenuity, the massive scale of NEOM, its new AI hubs.
While the U.S. counters that with Western computational might, we're talking about leveraging the expertise of Silicon Valley, giants like Nvidia for the hardware.
And innovators like Elon Musk's XAI.
Exactly. The U.S. provides the cutting-edge algorithms, the ethical governance frameworks, and this isn't just a promise of future cooperation, it's already happening. It's concrete.
And creating jobs.
Absolutely. One of the most significant specific collaborations cited is between Saudi Arabia's Humane AI and XAI. They're partnering on major data centers inside the kingdom.
And the impact of that.
That venture alone is projected to create thousands of high-skill, white-collar jobs. It really embeds Saudi Arabia deeply into the global digital economy.
Now, beyond the bilateral gains, the sources emphasize the global goals of this AI Pact. Things like safeguards for transparency and inclusivity.
And this is where the AI tools really shift from being just economic drivers to addressing what the source calls existential threats head on.
What kind of practical applications are we talking about?
Well, the ones listed are crucial. Developing AI climate models to predict weather patterns, optimize irrigation for drought-resistant crops, a huge deal in that region.
And beyond agriculture.
Predictive analytics for early pandemic detection, and using equitable platforms to deliver remote education access on a global scale.
Okay, so if we look past the humanitarian side for a second, what is the core strategic implication of all this economic intertwining?
It's the creation of a massive deterrent. The sources call it a deterrence factor.
How does that work?
By linking their essential supply chains, so U.S. chip fabrication depending on Saudi investment and Saudi cloud infrastructure depending on U.S. software, they make any kind of conflict economically ruinous for both sides.
So the idea is, if my access to the latest AI models depends on your data center funding, and your whole economic diversification plan hinges on my supply of rare earth minerals, I literally can't afford to engage in a proxy war against you.
Precisely. That profound interdependence, it just kills the incentive for those regional proxy wars. According to the analyses we reviewed, it charts a path toward lasting prosperity by aligning self-interest with peace.
This technological synergy gains a real-world urgency amid existing conflicts, which leads us right into our next segment, AI as a peace multiplier.
Right, because the visit really put a spotlight on Riyadh's diplomatic efforts to end the wars in Sudan and Syria.
Efforts now amplified by this explicit U.S. tech support.
Sudan is a primary focus. Civil strife has been dragging on for over 2 years there. The Crown Prince reportedly urged Trump to use this meeting to advance the 2023 Jeddah Declaration.
Which is that critical effort co-mediated by Riyadh and Washington.
Exactly, aimed at getting an immediate and lasting ceasefire. And the momentum has been building since then.
What's the latest development?
A September 2025 roadmap. It involves Saudi Arabia, the U.S., the Arab League, and Egypt. It charts really clear steps towards ceasefires and a comprehensive power-sharing agreement.
And if it works?
If it's successful, it immediately unlocks a massive $10 billion package for reconstruction.
And crucially, that reconstruction money isn't just general aid, right? It's focused on sustainability.
That's the key. The focus is on reforestation and water restoration, tackling the climate issues that so often fuel instability. And we see similar efforts in Syria post-Assad.
With the Saudi-hosted economic forums.
Yes, since early 2025, aiming at stabilization, restoring farmlands, helping refugees return, all tied directly back to Vision 2030's sustainability goals.
So we get the diplomatic goals, but how does AI actually connect to, quelling violence on the ground in these fragile places?
This is where we see the application of specific tools. For instance, AI could analyze satellite data for real-time ceasefire monitoring with extreme accuracy.
Detecting breaches faster than people could.
Much faster. They could also deploy natural language processing, or NLP, to streamline those really complex Jeddah negotiations.
And for our listeners, NLP is what allows computers to understand and process huge amounts of human language.
That's right. So imagine using NLP to sift through thousands of diplomatic documents, identifying sticking points, translating quickly, maybe even spotting patterns or compromises that human negotiators might miss in the moment.
So quelling the violence enables the tech deployment.
Precisely. It enables the AI-optimized solar grids in Sudan or the advanced hydrology models for Syria's Euphrates River.
It sounds like a profoundly optimistic agenda, but this is all unfolding against a a very fraught geopolitical canvas. This brings us to where the source identifies three clashing forces that are shaping this reality.
And we need to be careful here as they really challenge that peaceful narrative of the AI Pact. The first force is what the source terms the status quo guardians.
Meaning?
Political actors who, according to these documents, perpetuate cycles of violence.
He specifically is cited.
The source names figures like Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and elements of the U.S. military-industrial complex. The argument made is that they cling to these old ironclad pacts.
And that sustains instability rather than solving it.
That's the argument. The source material is very specific about the stress points this has caused. It cites the Hamas attacks of October 7, 2023 as a major shock.
And there was more.
Yes. It also highlights Iran's June 2025 strike on Qatar's Al Udeid air base, a critical U.S. base, which the source alleges happened with U.S. foreknowledge.
Which was then compounded by Israel's September airstrike on Doha.
All of it exposing these profound fractures in the old alliance structure. The source bluntly suggests that decades of Washington prioritizing Israeli primacy have actually sustained regional instability.
Okay, so that's the first force. The second is the emergence of global multipolarity.
Exactly. The surge in influence from China's Belt and Road Initiative and Russia's expansion of the BRICS group.
And the source gives a dual assessment here.
It does, which is key to impartiality. On one hand, these offer the promise of more equitable governance and infrastructure for developing nations. On the other,
there's the risk of debt traps and authoritarian influence.
The inherent risk, yes. Unsustainable debt and authoritarian sway.
And the third force is the proactive strategic diversification coming out of Riyadh itself.
This is comprehensive. Domestically, they've pursued concrete reforms, major gains in women's workforce participation, overhauls of the kafala system, more religious tolerance, and strategically, their defense posture is betting on de-escalation.
What are the specific diplomatic moves that show that shift?
They include the high-profile 2023 Tehran detente, normalizing relations with Iran. They've frozen normalization with Israel, conditioning it on a two-state solution, and they signed a defense pact with Pakistan.
So according to the analysis, these moves enhance Riyadh's leverage.
Yes, it blends deterrence with development. It makes them a more indispensable partner for the U.S.
Let's turn now to, let's call it scrutiny and selective outrage. The source dedicates a lot of space to the media and morality critique of this alliance.
It does. While critics point to human rights lapses and oil reliance, which the source acknowledges are valid concerns, the fixation is often on the 2018 Khashoggi killing as Riyadh's singular moral stain.
And the sources present counterpoints to what they call selective etiquette.
Or selective outrage, yes. The argument is that the intense, perpetual scrutiny on that one event stands in stark contrast to the response to certain American precedents.
What specific examples does the source use to make that comparison?
The argument contrasts that perpetual scorn with what the source describes as faint muttering over documented American actions.
Such as?
Specifically, it mentions Madeleine Albright stating that the deaths of 500,000 Iraqi children from sanctions were worth it. It cites Colin Powell's fabricated vile presentation to the UN that helped launch the Iraq War.
And Dick Cheney's deceptions regarding Iraq.
Yes, which ignited a conflict that killed over 1 million civilians.
So the core point of the source's critique regarding those actions.
The source argues that the people responsible often earned eulogies and hefty speaking fees, not perpetual scorn. The authors call it a pattern of thundering against foreign princes while whispering over homeland war crimes.
And we also see technical scrutiny, specifically on the proposed F-35 fighter jet deal.
Right. Even though it's a huge potential sale, the F-35 is described in the material as a $400 million per plane behemoth and critically, a maintenance nightmare.
A maintenance nightmare for Riyadh. Why?
Because of the deep integration requirements and the fact that the U.S. can veto necessary repairs or spare parts, they effectively maintain control over the planes even after they're sold.
The source calls the deal what?
For the American contractor's delight, not strategic savvy.
So what are the alternatives that the source suggests Riyadh should consider?
They argue that cheaper, proven alternatives exist from Russia, like the Su-35 or Su-57, or China the J-20 or FC-31.
And crucially, those aircraft would evade U.S. vetoes.
Exactly. The conclusion is that the visit demands candor and that Washington needs to move past the influence of congressional hawks and lobbyists like AI Pact to genuinely validate Riyadh as the GCC anchor and a reliable U.S. guarantor.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
The strategic AI partnership signals a bolder, more complex equation. It's shared code for a common cause. This shift from transactional deals to tech interdependence, backed by that $1 trillion commitment, really aims to algorithm a future rooted in mutual economic necessity.
Propelled by AI diplomacy in volatile places like Sudan and Syria, we've established that this new alliance is defined by these intertwined chip and cloud supply chains.
So if isolation from this global digital economy becomes economically ruinous, not just inconvenient for any nation, then the core strategic takeaway for you to consider is this.
Is profound economic interdependence, built on shared technology, the only true path to peace that can reliably deter large-scale aggression? Think about that as you consider the future of alliances.
That brings us to the end of today's discussion. For the full article, check the details in the description or visit www.arabnews.com. And to learn more about the author, visit www.al-Rasheed.org. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.